Hey everybody, Damon D here, and it's an honor and a pleasure to invite Zach Wheeler from Howling Giant. They have a new record, Crucible and Ruin, out on October 31st on Magnetic Eye Records. So how's your day going so far, Zach?
Dude, going great. It's beautiful here in Nashville finally because it was about 1 million degrees all summer. So we're chilling. It's like 72. Got a good run in, just cooling down now.
Nice, nice. That's a good Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
So, for people that don't know, let's give them an idea who Howling Giant is and the style of music that you guys play.
Yeah, totally. So, Howling Giant, like the band itself started under the name Skulldozer, SKLDZR, back in Boston, where Tom and I, guitarist and vocalist, used to go to school. And our buddy Roger was the original bassist. We had another guitarist at the time, our friend Noel. It was just kind of our goof off project where we wrote about our Dungeons and Dragons campaigns and stuff like that. We played one show a year, of course, on April 20th, as you do. And we were like in prog and like thrash and technical bands outside of this that we were investing a lot more time into. They kind of fell apart towards the end of college, and we were all like, this is fun. And we had a bunch of songwriter friends moving down to Nashville. We kind of didn't know where to go, so we followed them. Figured that it was a good spot, pretty good central hub for early touring. In 8 hours you can get to Chicago. You can scooch over to Asheville, Raleigh. Down to Savannah, like out to the really Midwest or hit the East Coast. So like it was a great touring hub and opportunity for us to kind of kick things off because those early days are all about just quick bursts of shows until you can finally piece together the big tour. So we went down to a three piece since our buddy Noel, the other guitarist, moved to LA. So it was the three of us for a while. Just kind of rebranded as Howling Giant, started hitting the road a little bit. The bassist couldn't really make it all happen with the touring, so we found Sebastian in 2018, and he joined right before our first full length record, Space Between Worlds. And then we kind of went through a couple different fourth member deals. Like our buddy Marshall, who used to sell merch, played keys for a couple tours. Then he kind of didn't, it wasn't for him. So we went back to a three piece. And then our friend James, who still does some writing with the band, an amazing lyricist and songwriter, he hopped in on second guitar duties for a little bit, but he couldn't make it work due to his work commitments. And then just about this time last year, we were talking with Adrian, who is truly the best, a road dog, plays guitar, synths, knows all about the road life. We've been buddies with him for years. He played in a Columbus band, Brujas del Sol. He has an Asheville band, Shadow Cloak. Amazing musician. And we talked to him, yeah, around this time last year, and he pretty much got it all together, learned the record, learned the live set list, and
Wow.
yeah, he is crushing. So we're here today, finally as a four piece again. It always feels good to like add that extra texture in live.
Sure, for sure. And then what would you say is the style of music that you guys play for people that have just they're not familiar with the band?
Yeah, I mean, we avoided the prog term for a little while because we came from these prog rock and prog metal backgrounds, and we started this band with kind of meathead stoner riffs. We were
Hmm.
listening to The Sword and Weed Eater
Yeah.
and the early Elder stuff. And eventually we started to try to infuse these little bits of progressive music that we all love and some of the psychedelic music. So like yeah, we love the Sword and bands like that and Sleep, but then we're going to write some Rush riffs, some Coheed and Cambria,
Yeah.
or all over the map. Adrian's really big in a lot of the post rock, post metal. So we just kind of say some people will be like, "Oh, space rock or prog rock or prog stoner." People love to put labels on it, but it's
Sure.
that realm, right? We love what Mastodon does with things. It's
Yeah.
almost easier to compare to some of those bands.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely heavy music, but then
Mhm.
with these different influences. And yeah, when you listen to the record, you hear different things. Like I hear some Helmet stuff, like
Oh
from
yeah.
90s. I hear Hum. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys.
Love Hum
Yeah,
so much. Yeah.
definitely hear that in there. So there's just all these kind of, and obviously Mastodon and things like that. And then, so it's really kind of unique, and I think the vocals. may not be what you expect when you hear some of the riffs, which is kind of these soaring kind of melodic vocals, which is, you know, I think actually more interesting than some of the, the growling that people do.
Yeah. And that's mostly just because we can't growl.
Yeah,
So, no, I mean the vocal thing kind of came out of necessity too. It's like we were all just dudes playing our instruments in a band and we were like, "Well, we should find a singer." And then we couldn't find a singer and like, Tom was like, "Well, I'll give a shot." And our old bass player Roger used to do all the vocal harmonies and then when he left, I just had to learn all of them because if people were filling in for shows on bass, I didn't want to have them learn every single
yeah,
vocal harmony. So I just kind of got in on it, and then Tom and I have been like, just you take some vocal lessons, you're rehearsing a bunch, you're practicing,
yeah,
you're trying to push yourself every record and get better at singing. And just we're just working on forcing ourselves into that vocalist role.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And so, uh, as a drummer, how do you manage the drums and the singing? And who are your, drum influences in general? And if there's drummers like, obviously Brand Daylor or Phil Collins or
Yeah.
whoever that kind
I
of,
mean, you nailed those two
yeah,
absolutely. When I'm looking for influences and like trying to figure out how people do what they do, having an actual drummer that's doing it and pulling it off, looking at their posture. I mean,
mm,
if you're singing and standing up and playing guitar, it's almost a lot easier to get into a decent posture where your lungs are opened up enough.
yeah,
I can find myself running out of breath quickly. If you're already sitting and then you start to hunch,
yeah,
you kind of get up to sing a part and you're like, it's gone. But I think just like guys like Braun, seeing how they do it, and you'll notice, you look at his posture behind the kit, it's amazing. And then the parts he writes are so complex. It's like kind of what I'm trying to emulate a lot of times. Um, and like when it comes to singing and playing the drums, it's something that's like different every time. There's sometimes, well, pretty much all the time we write the record and we have like we'll just be singing melodies, but we don't have the words. We don't have the lyrics until the last possible second, pretty
mm,
much. So everything gets done, and then Tom and I go back and go, crap, we have to learn how to sing and play this stuff.
mm,
And it's different for either one of us. Like sometimes there's a part that's like, all right, you can go right in, no problem. It's easy to sing and play this part. And sometimes I'll have to sit there and I will chart out the drum rhythms and then the vocal rhythms and
mm,
like see where they align, try to figure out like, all right, why is this breaking my brain
yeah,
so bad? And then just, I mean, slow down the tracks, keep practicing. But I mean, as for influences outside of like Phil and Braun, I think Josh Eppard from Coheed and Cambria, Blake Richardson, Between the Buried and Me, those are guys that I've looked up to for a long time in my favorite bands that are very creative drummers, each in what they do. And that's like, if we go back to my high school days when I was listening to a bunch of metalcore and stuff like that, the Rev from Avenged
mm.
Sevenfold,
Oh
there's
yeah,
another singing drummer that was an unreal player.
yeah,
And like his parts were just like the vocal parts, like the guy could sing all the high harmonies that they needed in that band. And that was just an amazing thing to see. And that's just early days singing again. It's like I'm trying to learn what he's doing so I can
yeah.
lock in better with my band.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the challenges is it's hard enough being a good drummer and or being a good singer, but to combine them both is super duper challenging in my opinion
I'm
because
I'm tired a lot.
yeah, you're out of breath a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you touched a little bit. Let's touch on the recording process a little bit here. You touched on a little bit how you guys come up with melodies and some songwriting and some lyrics. But as a group, how do you do the recording? Is it everybody gets in and jams and has music that they're going to jam on, or is it I've come up with all these parts, I
Mhm.
send you these recordings and you learn it and then we come together? Like how to explain the recording
Yeah,
process and
yeah.
yeah.
So we are a highly collaborative band. There's not like one guy that comes in with full songs written pretty much ever. The closest you'll get to that is somebody that goes, I have these two parts that definitely go together,
Hmm.
but then they bring it into the practice room and we do something. It could be Tom coming in the room with a guitar riff. It could be, hey, I have this chord progression and a melody. Um, I tend to go on a lot of runs and I will just like have voice memos on my phone because things will just come to me while I'm running. You know, you get in a rhythm and a pace and you just repeat stuff. So I'll take those voice memos, I'll play them on piano, I'll bring them to the
Mm,
guys. Seabass might come in with the bass part. Adrian is a lot more in depth with some of his ideas where he will have some arrangements of sections out, but he can show us like what he's envisioning. Um, and we would stream on Twitch since early 2020 when things were shutting down. That
mhm,
was how we kept busy. But we would just improvise a lot of stuff on there outside of our regular band rehearsals. And you'd notice just in the improvisational space, something would pop up and we're like, whoa, that thing's cool. Let's
yeah.
remember that. And then you bring it to band practice and you focus on it, or we each ruminate at home. So there's a lot of back and forth with this stuff. And occasionally we'll get in behind a recording program and track
Mm,
demos. Sometimes it just comes together in like a 2 hour practice.
yeah.
So that's at least when it comes to like the writing, how we do things. The studio time for Crucible and Ruin was a lot different than what we've done in the past. This was
Mm,
the first time that we got into a proper studio and did the record. We did basically like a 11 or 12 day chunk, and then we came back a couple weekends later just to finish some vocals and
mm,
stuff like that, just to give our voices kind of a bit of a break so we could capture the best possible vocal takes. But prior to that, my wife is actually an audio engineer in
oh,
town, does a
cool.
lot of live monitors in front of house and stuff. So we've got some recording gear at the house, and we'd track it here, you know, so we'd all be bartenders and stuff and finish up a shift, run here, track
Mm,
for an hour, and then, you know, you get done what you can get done. And the record would be recorded over the course of like 6 months or something, you know, so
wow.
way more spread out of a process, which gives you time to really sit with it, but also you can go crazy sitting with it for that
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
So it was nice to go in up to Athens, Ohio, with our buddy Neil Turry in his studio, Amish electric chair, and get it done.
Done.
And like,
Yeah.
and man, that felt so good. So
Awesome. So to that point, the new record, Crucible and Ruin, is out October 31st, Magnetic Eye Records. This is Zach Wheeler with Howling Giant. And what I'm going to do now is play track two, Hunter's Mark, and then we'll come in and talk about that one. So this is track two, Hunter's Mark. Check it out.
Close your eyes. All the wolves are in hiding. Open wide. Teeth flashing with lightning. White branches and golden fields.
All right, that was track two, Hunter's Mark, off of Howling Giant's new record, which is out October 31st on Magnetic Eye Records, Crucible and Ruin. So, Zach, tell us about track two, Hunter's Mark. That was a great track. One of the things I will say before you jump in is the guitar is, I'm a guitar player, so all
yeah.
you guitar players out there, the guitar sounds fantastic on this record. It's chunky, it's beef, it's not thin, it's got a lot of kind of heavy mid-range and bass, kind of EQ on it. It just really, it's like it feels like your head is right by the cabinet. So
Yeah, they got some ripping tones on this record. That was the nice part about getting into that studio with Neil, is like we had so many options to check out, and we could pair what we wanted per song. To speak to Hunter's Mark, though, that's one that we wrote a while back while our buddy James was still in the band playing guitar, and we had this kind of harmonized verse guitar riff that was like uh, kind of inspired by the sword and we were like, all right, this is so busy. Like, there's a lot going on. We need to open up this chorus. So that's when then we all came up with the big hits in that
Yeah.
chorus. Uh, and then just that song came together pretty quickly. And you do, you hit the intro verse chorus sort of thing. And as a band, we always kind of sit down and go, all right, are we doing the standard song form thing where we hit a bridge and one more chorus or whatever that is? And this one was just like, no, we've done enough of that. We need like, I think Tom called it a hog crank and riff, just like ride the motorcycle
Yeah.
into the distance.
Yeah.
And yeah, Tom just slapped that one down, and we were all just like, yep, that's it. We just ride that into the sunset. So that was really fun. Lyrically, I was reading God Emperor of Dune at the time, and there's a scene right in the beginning with all the emperor's wolves chasing these people who have stolen like this sacred diary from the Atreides emperor. And that's kind of how the lyrics started. And as we developed the themes to the record, we took some of those themes lyrically and then shaped them into what they became for this one, which the record as a whole, lyrically, the theme is kind of like these lesser gods. So we are kind of dealing with the druid side, the earth goddess sort of, goddess of hunters, that sort of theme.
And then was that a conscious decision to kind of have thematic elements lyrically, or was it just kind of came out that way?
I think after the first couple songs worth of lyrics were written, we kind of noticed the theme and we
Mm,
were like, oh, when we're working on the rest of them, it might be nice to wrap this into a concept record, not the linear story, like rock opera sort of deal that we
yeah.
have done in the past, but like just each song is kind of its own scene within this concept.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah.
it just like did not start that way. And then we had a couple and we were like, huh, okay,
Look what's
that'll,
happening.
that'll do. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And then there's another track. I mean, there's a lot of good tracks here. And um, one of the things I noticed was, there's all this heavy music and the guitar and the drums and double bass drumming and all of that. And then you kind of take these little breaks in between, right? I think it was is it track four? That's kind of more of the melodic kind of
Track four,
instrumental.
yeah, that one's Lesser Gods, and Seabass came in with this like chill bass riff that we just wanted to build into something. I think something we noticed early is we really want, like, we're not a single driven band. We want people to listen to the whole record, and the flow is so important to us.
Yeah.
And we noticed with our first EP ever, that was 20 minutes of music, and we got the masters back, and we were like, man, these songs all like we love them, but it's a fatiguing listen to
Yeah.
go in and everything is up here the whole time.
Yeah.
So from then on out, we started to build in whether it's a quieter section within a song or some sort of interlude if you need that to kind of help calm things down a little bit just for a moment, because I think Lars from Metallica would talk about it. For something to be fast, it needs to be next to something slow. And same thing goes for like a heavy record. To have something so chill and then you just drop in a big old riff after is just so important. I think everything drops way harder that way. Sabbath is just a perfect example of that. There's so much where they mess with dynamics so well. And then the riff is the heaviest thing you've ever heard because of what they did right before that.
Right. And I think if you want people to listen to the whole record, then having something in between, maybe that they don't expect. Because if you're just, some people like that where they're just, yeah, I had a bad day and I just want to be hammered for 60 minutes of
Yeah.
riffs. But, what I found was I was like, oh, that was unexpected. And it's kind of got a little bit of atmospherics and it's got a good
Mhm.
groove. And it's like, oh, it's like taking a breath. And then, okay, now we're back to, something that kind of elevates it. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
really,
I think you can
it felt like
trace
it
it.
was intentional. It didn't seem like he
Yeah.
just threw that out there.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that kind of traces back to some of our Rush and Pink Floyd like influences there because they'll have just such interesting small passages in between. It's a chance for us to stretch our legs and try something different. If I can play a keys like a synthesizer part. Now with Adrian in the band too, we've been talking about writing stuff where like all right, if he has a keyboard up on stage and I can have him beside the kit, we can take some passages to like, chill things out or get sci-fi synth, prog world. Weird stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So the next track we're going to take a look at is track 7, which is Scepter and Scythe. So let's listen to this one and we'll come back in and talk about that one. So this is track 7, Scepter and Scythe. Check it out.
When you see the flash of the swinging scythe, hear the silver giant proclaim. When it's cold on your throne and the metal soul, can your heart be set aflame? When the moon is high in the bleeding sky, no sight of the morning rays, and the guys have all started screaming, can't you hear them call your name?
All right, that was track 7, Scepter and Scythe, Howling Giant, Crucible and Ruin. It's out October 31st on Magnetic Eye Records. I'm here with Zach Wheeler on drums and vocals. And so, Zach, give us an idea about track 7, Scepter and Scythe. Obviously, the first thing I noticed was the double bass drumming. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little about this track. And are you singing background vocals
hmm
while the double bass drum is going, or how? Let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that a little bit.
Especially in that verse, there's this syncopated thing where like my hands are just doing the, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the kick is doing this like 3/4 thing, and that was one where I had to really slow things down to be like, how do I sing and play this? And I mean, same thing with the double bass. It's just like, yeah, it messes with me for sure, but I will probably after this go back in the practice room and start shedding that again just to be like, now that I'm thinking of that part, I should go work on it. That one came from a Twitch jam. That was another one that started when it first came about, when James was in the band. There 4 of us were streaming on Twitch, and James just came out with kind of riff, and Tom started playing off of that, and then we came back to it like a few months later and wrote the song. And then I love it because I gave myself a few drum breaks, and that is always fun, just a quick low. I'm not like a drum solo type of guy ever, but I love when there's like a really cool fill in a song. So I love, bands just doing stops and there's like quick things that happen rather than like a whole composed, solo. I think it just helps move the arrangement along a lot better sometimes. But yeah, so that is just a really, really fun song to play for all of us. I'm doing all the backing vocals. Influence wise, while we were writing these lyrics, I came to the guys with a bunch of like very Dio inspired lyrics and some of the phrasing. And that's what we kind of landed with the rest of the song as well. They were like, all right, yeah, this is cheese. It's the
Yeah.
80s cheese, but
Yeah.
like it's like fun and it feels right in that meter. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it definitely has that kind of mid 80s, kind of, Dio Sabbath vibe to it. But
Yeah.
that's what we need though in the world we live in today, is more fun. So
Yeah,
I'm
big
all
time.
for it. I'm all for it. Now let's talk about the Nashville scene. You guys are in Nashville.
Mhm.
I know that you've played shows recently with Castle Rat, who has a new record out. Just I know they're not from Nashville, but I know you played with them. So talk about
Yeah.
the Nashville scene. Everyone knows country music, but from a
Sure.
heavy band perspective, like what's it like being a band that's not playing country music in Nashville?
Our scene in the like stoner desert world, kind of like most cities, comes in waves. I think when we started playing, there were a lot of really cool bands that took us under their wing. Silent Monolith at the time. They're still out there and keeping busy, but they kind of introduced us to the bars to play, the Springwater Supper Club, and then a few came up in East Nashville years later, and we came in at a really good time for that. All Them Witches, they're Nashville guys, and
Hmm.
they helped a lot because they did this merging of the heavy and like the indie and the psych, and it
Hmm.
all came together and kind of united a lot of people in that scene, and people were more willing to check out some shows they might not normally go see.
Hmm.
So we came in right when they were like we started playing when they were releasing their first record, and man, those shows were like uh crazy whenever you would go see All Them Witches play, because it was every type of music fan would be out there, and that's so cool to see. And then like I started here, and I played some country gigs. I
Hmm.
played some pop gigs. You do what you can so you can pay the bills, and I had fun with all the musician friends that I did that with, but it's so much more fulfilling to write and play my own music
Yeah.
within a style that I love. I think you'll find a lot of the hired guns around here that play in the country scene especially, they're all rockers.
Hmm.
Like they all get
Hmm.
together in their off time,
That's
and
funny.
they do like cover nights out at some of these bars where they're just like they'll piece bands together and be like, all right, we're playing all Judas Priest tonight,
Yeah.
and that's what they do, which is pretty sick.
Hmm.
But I mean, there's a big death metal scene for a while. um the hip hop scene's really cool, like a lot of stuff just kind of bubbling under the surface constantly, even though we're known as the country music capital. I think when you get so many talented musicians in one space, a bunch of cool stuff is going to
Yeah.
happen, like stylistically, and it might just be you might have to search for it a little more, but man, there's some amazing musicians around here.
Yeah. And I think talent finds talent, and people that, are open to different things and new things and trying new things, and, the creativity just comes out, and, that's really great.
Yeah,
Um,
it's super super cool to be here. Yeah.
That's awesome. And we just have a few more minutes here, and in the last
Mhm.
few minutes, let's talk about do you have any future or plans to tour this record outside of the Southeast, or is there anything
Yeah.
on the calendar for 26 or
Oh yeah, we are gonna jam pack it. We're getting to some announcements soon. So we're leaving for all of November for an East Coast tour with the Canadian metal band Ancients. So we have that happening. Starts November 3rd and will go pretty much up until Thanksgiving. We're working on a West Coast tour in March and April. That one should announce nearly any day now. So that'll be great. We've got a new European agent that's killing it, and he's getting us over there, I believe, May, June.
Mm,
And then we're talking about basically how to deal with the rest of the year now, just kind of looking at, all right, where have we been? Where do we need to go? So the first half of the year is full. Those announcements will come soon. And we're working on the second half. So because this record's coming out towards the end of this year, we are just going to hit the road and just try to get ahead of writing the next one as well in the off time.
cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I could definitely see this type of record being pretty popular in Europe, especially with Desert Fest and these kind of
Oh
European
yeah.
festivals. Like I could see you guys slotting in there for sure.
Yeah, we've only been over once to play, but it was October 2023, but amazing time. Like, yeah, we did Desert Fest Belgium. That was
Mm.
so fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the European crowd can be a little bit different, and they
Hmm.
really appreciate American rock acts for, whatever reason. So, and plus Europe, it's just different vibe than the US, and it's really
Yeah.
fun. So,
Yeah.
um, and then we just have a couple minutes here, but let's talk about any social call outs. Do you have any Instagram or
Yeah.
YouTube pages or anything like that?
Sure. We're on all of the stuff pretty much at Howling Giant, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you're calling it these days, TikTok, our YouTube channel, again, Howling Giant. We're on Twitch, Howling Giant Official, and we try to stream when we're not on the road, usually once a week. It's been a little busy to do it lately, but we'll get back into it this winter. The live streams are usually going to be us rehearsing songs, improvising some of this stuff. So, taking requests, doing covers, all that good stuff. So yeah, we're on all the stuff. Pretty easy to find, I think, hopefully. So
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Awesome. So I've been talking today with Zach Wheeler from Howling Giant. He plays drums and does vocals, and their new record, Crucible and Ruin, is out October 31st, Halloween this year on Magnetic Eye Records. It's a really great record. There's some really great guitar sounds and drum sounds, and it's a really heavy, kind of massive record, and there's a lot of great riffs here. So I hope everybody goes out and listens to it. And this has been Damon D. One World, One Rock.